Donald Trump sounding warnings about the risk of a 9/11 style attack. He says if the U.S. keeps allowing Syrian refugees into the country, it is courting disaster. He made these comments in an interview with the National Border Patrol Council.
Bad things will happen. A lot of bad things will happen. There will be attacks that you wouldn't believe. There will be attacks by the people that are right now coming into our country, because I have no doubt in my mind. I mean, you look at it, they have cell phones. So they don't have money, they don't have anything, they have cell phones. Who pays their monthly charges, right? They have cell phones with the flags, the ISIS flags on them. And then we're supposed to say, isn't this wonderful that we're taking them in?
The Union for the National Border Control Agents had never endorsed a presidential candidate until it announced in March that it is backing Trump.
Hey everybody, this is Scott from Standing Ground Studio, and today I have the perfect example of what I was talking about in my last video, which was called Donald Trump, Conspiracy Theorist in Chief. And what you saw right there was Trump playing the part of the truther yet again. And as you just heard, he's putting a bold warning out there about an imminent terrorist attack on U.S. soil, possibly on the scale of 9/11 or larger. And I think he's generally right about this one. His warning is right in line with comments I've made in earlier videos where we're going to get hit by a giant shock as great big corruption starts coming out and we have to have conversations about 9/11 and all that. But that doesn't suddenly mean we should trust this guy. You heard his comments about the refugees and their cell phones, and I went ahead and Googled that because I hadn't heard of it before. And apparently something did happen along those lines. I've heard about refugees coming in suspiciously well dressed with working cell phones, and I've also heard about the precarious numbers of healthy young men crossing borders into Europe, like they kind of didn't belong with a bunch of other refugees. And while I do generally think that the borders are being opened up to help tear down national sovereignty both here and in Europe, the refugee crisis, I have to re-mention, is a catch-22 situation. The US and other countries must take in refugees for the sake of our humanity, I understand that, but we've already been told that ISIS is going to cross borders this way, particularly in Europe. Now, I talked about this in my video, ISIS Will Spread Like a Cancer, which I'll put up on the screen. You can watch more about it in that video. But these two paragraphs right here where he says, bad things will happen, a lot of bad things will happen. On the whole, I agree with this warning. We are going to be shocked by an event or series of events that's going to create demand to figure out how we got to this point in our history. This is going to bring up a bunch of arguments about how we got into the wars in the Middle East, which means bringing up 9/11, which means bringing up the 28 missing pages and the Saudis and so on and so on. But it's not going to be that easy. Because if and when Trump is proven right on this point, or others, he's going to drum up hatred for foreigners, and he will have the clout to stir the pot horribly here at home. It's all about getting people stirred up. So like I said in my earlier video, the more he's proven right, the crazier he gets to act. So while I agree with the main warning he's offering here, that doesn't mean I agree with most of his other comments that'll come with it. And you can check out my previous video for more about that. On top of that, we've already been warned about this by the director of CIA and the head of Europol, so this isn't actually a new warning. This is another seed being planted in the narrative. I'm pointing this out now because there will be a payoff in the future that's going to lead to a lot of anger and confusion. Here's another quick point going forward. Like in this article says, he never actually shows any sources. This quote right here stands out. Once the New York real estate tycoon is formally nominated to be the Republican candidate, then he will receive an intelligence briefing from the Director of National Intelligence, a tradition undergone with candidates in both parties. So we'll just have to see how that turns out and how that might change the dynamic. Okay, so one other note I'd like to point out before I sign off, which is that I've been seeing articles for a few weeks now that say ISIS is losing ground in both Syria and Iraq and is actually in a state of emergency right now. And it's made me think that they could be pushed to the brink of destruction and act out in a fury to bring chaos to the West, maybe in one last hurrah. Whether it's one giant attack or a whole series of attacks, or whether it's real or fake, I don't know. But just skimming through a few articles here, ISIS increasing attacks on Westerners, it kind of mentions what I just said. And it didn't take long to do a Google search and find other articles that are saying basically what I'm saying right now. Is ISIS really in retreat, and will they lash out at the Westerners for that? So it's kind of lining up. We want to keep our eye on this. So keep your eyes open going forward. We generally know how this is going to go in broad strokes. And once the ball really gets rolling and people become emotional, the situation is going to become more volatile and fluid. And the further we get into this script, the more confusing it's going to become on all fronts. So don't get too wrapped up in the details. Stick to the broad narrative, because the chaos agenda that's behind all this is going to twist and convolute every topic that we discuss, so that it just becomes more and more confusing. You can blame almost anything on anybody. So as always, my core message is the truth is in Jesus Christ, or Yeshua. His promise never changes. He loves you more than you could ever know, and he warned us all about this outcome. So that being said, please like and share this video, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.